Risacher has had a roller coaster of a year. Let's just dive right into it.
Yeah, let's get
Um,
let's get weird.
because this time last year he didn't look like a first rounder necessarily. He followed that. He followed up a lackluster Hoop Summit performance with an even more concerning FIBA U19 World Cup performance, and then he just kind of took the basketball world by storm by being one of the most prolific three-point shooters in the world. When we talk about prospects, now he's going through a bit of a cold stretch, and people are jumping ship. Some of the takes with him have become a bit ridiculous, in my opinion, at least. But where are you at with Ricochet, or where do you want to start with him?
It's tough because it it's almost presented. It's like I'm gonna struggle to find the words because we've even prepped this earlier than we ever have. I feel like when it came to a topic, we were like, yes, we need to talk about Zach. We need to talk about Topic. It's a hot topic. Um, and I was like, I don't know how to phrase it the right way. So everyone buckle up. So we saw him at Hoop Summit. Drink. We had a lot of. He was buzzing then about the next international guy after Victor. It was like, okay, Richache should be in the conversation near the top. And we saw a timid player that week throughout practices. We all had a lot of questions there. In the game, he looked much better. Then he goes and plays at JL Borg this year for a new team after playing with Asvel. Looked completely different. Just like mindset, aggressiveness, mentality on the court. We were like, where is this coming from? And he's really impressed me throughout the year. And then he's had this cold spell, which has been, I mean, as Metcalf pointed out to start, like he was lighting the net on fire from deep. And everyone's like, is this consistent? Is this a legit thing? And then you keep going throughout the year and the sample size big enough, you're like, okay, this has got something. And he's hit just a brutal, rough stretch. Now, me personally, I've always said, got every prospect's going to have a hot stretch. Every prospect's going to have a cold stretch. I do not overreact from one cold stretch because they happen. It's basketball. These guys are human beings. I'm going to take in the whole evaluation of a year. That being said, I've watched his cold spell games, and I don't know how you feel, Metcalf, but it's not that like the shots. There's a lot of good shots. They're just not going in, and it's not like he's missing left and right, missing bad. Like they're in and out, a lot of in and outs. I like some of the takes he's had. They've been aggressive, in and out. Like obviously there's some decision making where he's forcing the issue. But I even texted you. I was like, I feel like he's playing super sped up lately. Like it's almost with me, and I don't know if I'm just my eye, and I need to go back and rewatch more stuff. And I tried to, but I feel like his shot is rushed right now. Like it's not the smooth follow through all the way. I feel like it's got a little bit of a jerk neck, if you want to put it that way. I don't know. Where are you at? I'm still believing.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
mean, so
moving him into my lottery, like late lottery. I'm not
yeah,
that guy. I'm still having him in my top 10. I just think maybe we're getting away from the number one pick conversation.
yeah. So what one of the more frustrating aspects for me with the kind of discourse around him right now is the recency bias with it, because I think it's really easy to forget how much bigger his sample size is right now than every college player. Where
Huge.
so he's played 54 games. That's almost double what most of these college kids have played.
Yep. Yep.
So someone that age playing in a pro league across multiple competitions, getting starters minutes across 54 games, it's not shocking if fatigue is setting in. It's not shocking that he's going through a cold stretch. But over his last 16 games, solid sample size, hasn't been able to shoot. He's shooting 22.2% on 4.2 attempts per game. This is all from three on 63 total three pointers. Solid sample size. Concerning. The previous 38 games, 47.5% from three on 122 attempts, about 3.2 a game. So, which is it? And I think where I tend to lean towards is that it's neither one or the other. It's like most things, somewhere in between. It's somewhere in the middle. and it's probably right around that 39% that he's been on the year. I think the sample size with him is so big and so encompassing that, yeah, we never thought that he was going to be a 47% three-point shooter, but I also don't think he's as bad as this current cold stretch is indicating either, because kind of like you mentioned, the the shot attempts, they're not bad looks. They're I don't really have an issue with his mechanics. They're a little funky. It's a little quick, but his release has been super quick all year. I think he's starting to kind of fall out of his shot a little more now than he was at the beginning of the year. But some of the difficulty in the shots that he's taking, it's shots that you would expect a legit NBA guy to off ball shooter to be taking at the next level. He's not just standing still, launching up, exclusively corner threes. There's some range on it. There's some pull up stuff where he's like attacking the closeout and then hitting a step back. So I think he's just going through a cold stretch. And I think that when we think about him as a shooter, the high 40% was never what he was going to be.
Right, right.
It was that was an outlier, but I also think that I don't think he's going to be a 20% three-point shooter either. I think if he's probably going to be league average ish for most of his career as a three-point shooter. And I think that's going to be good enough when you then factor in what he does in transition and especially on the defensive end.
I mean, I'm going off of real GM, but last year for Asvel, he played 50 games total, but only 16.3 minutes a game. Shot around 30% from downtown. He's at 54 on 22.8 minutes this year. That's a big jump. I know people don't think that's a big jump. That is a big jump for someone that young to be all of a sudden you're playing extended minutes, way more games. I mean, I know 4 more games, but season's still going for them. So I think, even seeing him back in Portland, I thought he had a good looking shot. And it just seems like now there's been an emphasis to speed it up. I like the looks he's getting. I'm right there with you. I mean, we're talking about a terrible shooting spell right now.
Yeah.
Still at 38%. Like, that's how ridiculous this year has been for him. And, I'm right there with you. I think that's just a cold spell. But at this point, I'm watching, like, how is he playing when the shot's not falling? There's still good defensive stuff. There's still high effort, high intensity. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, I get it. He's having a cold stretch. Like, we're all going to take notice. But time of the year is very important right now. We have nothing to talk about. So everyone's focusing on the guys that are playing right now because NCAA is done. Guys are getting ready for the pre-draft. So I think it's a tough time for Risacher to be struggling because everyone is zeroing in on it.
He's the only guy playing.
Exactly. Him and Topic. And I would still be buying. I still would be. And it's not because of the recent stretch. It's just because of the growth he took this year in terms of his playing style. Like, I did not see this player in Portland. I turned to you guys and I was like, I might take him late first at this point, like as a flyer. And this type of player, I would still take in the lottery because of the off ball stuff defensively, the basketball IQ, and just the shift in development. He's like now on a different path that we weren't even in the same area before, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, no, it does. And I, when we evaluate all these guys, I think it's so important to kind of figure out who they are now and what are they going to be going forward and what are they going to be asked to do. And one of the things that I keep, aside from the skepticism of the shooting, one of the things I keep seeing pop up is, oh, he's not an on-ball creator. He's not an on-ball guy. It's like no one in this class is. Show me the wing in this class that can create their own shot consistently. Show me the wing. Nah, he's a guard.
Okay.
But like, there aren't on-ball scorers who are wings this year. All these guys have flashes of doing it, whether it's Risacher or Cody or.
I guess you could probably argue Dalton, but
yeah,
I know what you're saying. That's why this year's so crazy.
So when we evaluate him, and it's like, oh well, he's not an on-ball guy. It's like, okay, but he's also like no one in this class is, and if we're only evaluating him for a role that he's never going to be asked to do, what's the value in that? Why not instead look at, okay, he's going to be more of a 3-and-D guy. Is that number one pick worthy? No. And I think that's what we're really finding out with him these last couple months is that, okay, when he was shooting like that, it was really easy to get infatuated with it, to fall in love with all of it because he was shooting at an astronomical rate. And it looked like, okay, this if he's shooting that way and defending that way, a top 2, top 3 pick makes a lot of sense for that guy because as we're seeing in the playoffs, that's how valuable wings are. But now we're seeing the shooting tail off. We're seeing the on-ball creation disappear even a little more. So it's like, okay, well, he's not a number one guy now. But if you can get a really high-level versatile defender in the mid to late lottery, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's when you kind of approach it with through the lens of, okay, what is he going to be in the NBA? And look at what he does well. It's still really important skills that are more than worthy of a top 10 to 14 pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're hitting the right buttons because I've had a little bit of a hot take and I don't know where to run with it. I was going to write about it, but I don't know. So here we go. We're looking at this class the wrong way. We can't try to make these guys what they aren't. Like everyone looks at a guy and they're like, well, he can't create. Yes. If you're trying to find the full package in this class, you're not going to find him. You're not going to get the creating freshman or 18-year-old that can shoot from outside, that's consistent defensively. Everyone has their warts this year. Like that's why it's such a crazy year. That's why everyone's down on it. You have to evaluate these guys for what they can do and figure out, is this something that's going to work at the next level? Like their strengths, is it going to work as an NBA player, their NBA skill set? We know Zachary's not a full what we dream of in a wing, but if the outside shots can be consistent, if he plays good defense, if he's got a good basketball IQ, if he's checking the necessary boxes at potentially 6'9" with the upside to create some stuff, that's where, like, okay, then buy in on that. Like, if you're going to look at him and say, well, he's not this guy from a previous class, you're right. 100% right. But you can't, that's why I've always said, and I'm not trying to be a buzzkill, but it's like we can't compare this class to other classes.
Yeah.
Because you're going to constantly be down. You're going to be like, he's not this guy. Absolutely. So this is the class. Focus on this class. And I don't mean to try to sound harsh, but I think that's where it can get easier when you're like, I can't look back at last year and be like, well, he's not Brandon Miller because it's, yeah, no shit. But this class, this is the toys we have in the shed. You got to figure out which one is your top 5 or who do you like and what you can work with. So it's a really tough one because I always myself, I like to compare it to previous prospects, like, and go from there. But
it's hard not to.
It's really hard not to because that's what we do. We all like to talk about pro comps. We all like to kind of get a vibe for someone. But I think this year you have to get even more creative and just be like, I can't do it. I got to just look at what's ahead of me and try to figure it out. It's been a chaotic year and it's really fun. And that's why I'm with you. I'm still like, I still think Zach's a top 10 guy because of what he can bring to the table if you're buying the shot, being consistent.
Completely agree.
Harsh? Yeah, I mean, you could tell me I'm a jerk, but we do that well.
Because if we keep looking at this draft and hoping for one of these guys to turn into something that they're just not, and it's going to be impossible to not be disappointed. And there just isn't star power in this draft. There isn't that franchise cornerstone, but there's a lot of really good role players. There are a lot of guys who are going to be good starters. There are going to be a lot of guys who contribute to winning basketball. And there's always value to be had. You just have to find it, and you have to look at these guys through the proper lens. And when you try and look at them as, all right, who's going to be the all NBA guy, you're probably going to miss out pretty significantly. And I think with Risacher, he's one of these guys where if you're looking at him to be one of these dynamic all NBA wings, or for him to eventually grow into that, you're going to miss. He's not going to be that. But if you're looking at him to be like a 6'7" version of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, or Dorian Finney-Smith, or one of these play finishing wings who are more focused on defense, who can defend anyone on the perimeter, who can get out and run in transition, who can be that reliable play finisher, then it's like, okay, cool. I found a guy that I'm going to be able to plug into my rotation um, pretty early, and maybe a year or two from now, he's breaking into the starting lineup.
I agree. You're going to the bakery this year to get a piece of the cake. You ain't getting the whole cake. So, and like fans in the comments are saying, this is a draft of 2 and 3s or 3 and 4s. Absolutely. Like you're getting a piece of the puzzle. That's why I'm saying this is a draft to get depth. You're getting the guy alongside, hopefully, your team's guy that's just helping him out with what he can do on the court. And that's why I think when fans start seeing it that way, it sucks. It sucks to be like, hey, don't look at, last year and dream of, a Brandon Miller or someone like that, or your previous drafts of Franz Wagner and stuff like that. I think this is the year you got to just be like, okay, we're getting someone to help this team take the next step forward. And I still believe Zaccharie could be that guy.